Hi there and welcome. Thank you for joining me. So, my name is Mandy Freilich, and I guess in a nutshell, I am someone who likes to share education. While I primarily spend my time business consulting and offering financial planning services, for the first 8 years of my career, I worked as a holistic nutritionist, a chef, and offered a variety of holistic healing modalities to assist with body work and whatnot. So while I'm mostly focused in the financial planning sphere and I'm in my office today, I did actually want to take some time and go through my website, Life in Bloom Nutrition, which I've kept live and I keep updating with regular recipes and articles and advice just to help people like you actualize on your goals and finally get some answers to the questions that you have. In my experience, while a lot of this information almost seems common sense to me nowadays, it comes back now and again that, most people aren't talking about the true root cause of what's causing harm to people's bodies. And I really like to focus on women and the birthing system and discuss how essentially our lack of awareness and our unwillingness to look to nature for answers has caused harm and how we can reverse that. So my goal today is actually just to review my latest blog article. And I think it's something that every woman should learn about at some point or another, because most people, and that includes doctors, aren't taught about something called estrogen dominance and how it affects hormones, how it contributes to a variety of different maladies, and how it can actually contribute to infertility as well, too. So this is my website, Life in Bloom Nutrition. You can go to lifeinbloomnutrition.com or Life in Bloom with the dashes there. And then this is the homepage. And I just recommend you go to the blog or you can scroll down. And this is the most recent article. We're just going to kind of review it today. I think that uh, a combined approach to help people understand the content that's being created and its purpose is very helpful because in my experience, not a lot of people like to sit down and read a long article. Firstly, we have plenty of stress to focus on, from raising families to the state of the world to new COVID scares, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot, that we're all distracted with. So I just want to offer an overview. Now, this article came to be because I've had quite a few women reach out in regards to their own health and wanting to know more about how they can balance their hormones. The issue, in my opinion, is that most allopathic doctors aren't actually talking to women about this at all. They're just saying, oh, this is an issue. You take um, this drug for pain and or maybe get something cut out, such as your uterus and your ovaries, and these very vital organs that unfortunately can become overridden with something called endometriosis, and it creates a lot of scar tissue and it can adhere to other organs, and it's very, very painful. And I've had a few women in my family who have suffered from it, and I just think it's an absolute tragedy that no one is talking about the root cause of hormonal issues with women and how it manifests in different ways. And this is a topic I take very personally because I've witnessed my own mom going through issues with this over the years. And at one point she almost died from endometriosis as well too. And turns out that if this surgery isn't done very intentionally and very delicately, it can actually leave ovarian tissue. And there's a syndrome called ovarian remnant syndrome, where even though you don't have the ovaries or even the uterus, that tissue can still continue to grow and then produce hormones, resulting in endometriosis type symptoms. And the only thing that allopathic doctors are recommending is to cut it out again. And I just think it's an absolute asinine way to approach health. I think this is the result of being disconnected from nature. It's a result of not honoring true femininity and what biological females need, specifically because they haven't been studied enough. And also this like almost inherent resentment from the, some people within our species to basically try and gloss over what true femininity is and create some picture that is akin to almost like pornographic studies and what we think womanhood is. And it's just barbaric. So that's why I've gotten a lot more vocal in recent years about, first of all, wanting to speak out about women, not being shy about the fact that I'm happy to support people and whatever they want to do. I will use their pronouns, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to depart from reality and believe that biology can be changed just because we want it to be. At the end of the day, I'm going to continue to stand up for women because I believe that women and children are our future, and we have to do what we can to keep sacred spaces, to honor the divine feminine, and at the end of the day, to take action to spread more education and awareness. Okay, I'm off my high horse now. So this article, I will include the link of this YouTube video, but I just want to go through here. So essentially, this is going to be one of several parts to the series. This one is specifically about getting your period back after you've been on hormonal birth control. It affects a lot of women actually. And I was curious because I was talking to my husband and he said, "What? I've never even heard about this estrogen dominance, never heard about issues with the period and the birth control pill." And I was like, either you're not paying attention or women are just really not talking about it. And because they're not talking about it, they're not getting answers like they need. And so, let's go to where it started. So, birth control, I really do believe that in some ways it has helped us because it's given people the ability to live intentionally and bring offspring into this world when they're ready to. But at the same time, I think that the current form of it is overall quite detrimental from a health perspective for women. So it was first introduced in the 1950s. Curious how that's also when a lot of women started getting a lot more hormonal related symptoms. And that also coincides with the chemicals in the cans that people started shifting to eating more, specifically due to war and wanting to ration and preserve food and all that good stuff. And let's see, I want to talk about how the people who helped develop it. So we have Dr. Gregory Pincus, Dr. John Rock, and Margaret Sanger. Now, Margaret Sanger is a controversial figure because she was also someone who was directly involved in the origin of Planned Parenthood. And she had a lot to do with the Negro Project, which, from my understanding, was actually about reducing birth rate among African American women. And then it went from this almost nefarious scheme, in my opinion, to something that is now celebrated by women. We're celebrating the ability to abort our babies. And at one point, I would have been like, well, yeah, it's a woman's choice. But anyone who knows me knows that at this point, I am all for pro-life. I think that if you don't intervene, I'm not going to get into this argument, but if you don't intervene, there's going to be a human. And at the end of the day, it's a constitutional right for humans to live. So we'll just gloss over that. I'm not going to get into that here. But anyways, Margaret Sanger, though, again, someone who helped develop these pills. It seemed like a win for women at the time. But of course, what we're now learning is that the side effects of birth control are still largely misunderstood. And I think this is where we really have to talk about what's happening, because if we keep waiting, then it's going to get worse and worse. So something that's interesting to me as an RHN is that estrogen is one of the primary ingredients in most hormonal contraceptive options. And it's that with progestin, which is a synthetic form of progesterone. And what we can see when people have too much estrogen in their body is a variety of physiological changes, which we'll get into, but things that can contribute to excess estrogen, and this causes problems in both men and women, are natural physiological changes. So obviously, when you go through puberty, your estrogen levels are going to rise. Menopause as well too, estrogen levels drop significantly, but when we don't have enough progesterone, it can actually exacerbate the symptoms of menopause. And so if someone is having really wild hot flashes, or they just have, mood swings up and down and they're still experiencing a lot of pain, I would personally recommend they go see someone and get their estrogen levels tested, and also potentially supplement with progesterone. That's going to be a naturopathic doctor or a functional medicine doctor, because it's not commonly prescribed from my understanding. Medical treatments as well can also contribute to excess estrogen. There's phytoestrogens in our foods and soy products, for instance. That's why they have kind of a bad reputation. There's good and bad with this. Sometimes the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, where I graduated from, they recommend that phytoestrogens aren't all bad, but it really depends on how the entire woman's hormonal system is working, and that requires working with a holistic nutritionist, someone who can look at all the different symptoms and identify what's really going on and assist with balancing hormones with a regimented dietary and lifestyle plan. And we'll get into some of the other components there. Meat and dairy. So there's also increased levels of hormones in animal agriculture, and that can also exacerbate how much estrogen we have in our bodies. Our society, specifically in the US, is riddled with environmental exposure of estrogen like components. Okay, and same with personal care products. And, there's pharmaceuticals in the water. People think they can just dump their pharmaceuticals and nothing's going to happen. That's not how that works. It stays in the water system. A lot of that's really hard to filter out. So that's not good. Another reason why we really should all get more proactive about having filtered water available. There's herbal supplements that can exacerbate estrogenic type activity. And there's estrogens. Okay, so go through there, my recommendation. And then what are some common symptoms when people have estrogen dominance? Well, irregular menstrual periods are one, bloating, so fluid retention, especially in the abdominal area, breast tenderness or swelling, mood swings, headaches, weight gain, swollen or tender hands and feet, hair loss, cold hands and feet, trouble sleeping, low libido, memory issues, fatigue, uterine fibroids, endometriosis or endometrial hyperplasia, gallbladder problems, thyroid dysfunction. Those are all symptoms. And if you've been paying attention, a lot of women suffer from them. So there's some general recommendations here for how a female can take a dietary and lifestyle approach to help balance estrogen in her body. First of all, I want to talk about insulin resistance and how it's very common when you have endocrine disruptions of any kind. And it's very common when you have insulin resistance to hold on to fat, specifically around the midsection in the body. And I included some different journal references as to why junk food is really just the worst when it comes to balancing your hormones. I know it tastes good. I miss my fiery hot Cheetos as well, but at the end of the day, it's just not good, guys. Like, it's just not good. Inflammation and cortisol, how junk food affects that, how it's an endocrine disruptor overall. And when your gut is impacted through the crappy food that you eat, and then you have hormonal imbalance, it just exacerbates it back and forth. When your digestion is impacted, your endocrine system is going to be at a disadvantage as well too. So it's very important that we look at the effects of junk food and we get real and we develop a plan. It's addictive, but we need to make changes, right? So dietary and lifestyle recommendations, we talk about eating healthy diet, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats. Really want to focus on the three main cornerstones, I think, of keeping you full. So we have protein, healthy fat, and some healthy whole carbohydrates. And essentially, you want to aim for that 3 to 4 times per day in your meals. Keep your blood sugar stable. That's always a good goal there. Exercise and the importance of helping to balance hormones. Managing stress, sleep hygiene is huge. Getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. Limiting exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals like BPA, phthalates, and pesticides, which can interfere with hormone production and function. Caffeine, I love it too. I'm literally drinking coffee when I make this video, but all within balance, right? It's all about understanding that you can have a little bit here and there, but if you're really suffering from adrenal fatigue, it's probably very important that you limit it for a while, maybe switch to green tea, and then also get off of it for a time. You can always have it again, but your body needs to heal. And typically when we add things in that impact the healing process, that's what prolongs sickness. So you just have to do it. It's really complicated. And I know it's easy to say that just do it, but that's once again why people like me exist, is to help develop plans to help orient people with the path forward, because it's a lot. I've spent almost 15 years now studying holistic nutrition and its effect on our health and well-being. Food is so intimately related with our perception of ourself, and that's why it's important once again to have conversations on this. Over restriction, that's another important topic. So extreme dieting or excess calorie restriction can impact hormonal balance and reproductive health. Is true. So I know a lot of women who will do the whole yo-yo dieting thing where they'll eat whatever they want for a while and then they'll say, "Ooh, I'm getting fat and I need to starve myself," essentially. And they'll go into a very restrictive time period where they'll maybe eat like 1,000 to 1,500 calories per day, and they'll overexercise, and they think that they're doing something really good for their body, but in reality what they're doing is they're screwing up their hormones even more. And They might get some short-term gains. That's most likely from a reduction in water because they're not eating the same foods that were causing them to hold on to water and then continue to bloat. And then when they gain it back, it's even harder to get off because their hormones are kind of messed up. So over restriction is no good. That's also one of the main focuses of this website because I got into holistic nutrition because I over restricted and I over exercised, and I got to a point where I was like, if I don't figure out how to find balance, I'm probably going to kill myself. And so that's how my interest in holistic nutrition was born, and it's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about it. Food is more than about what you're eating. It's really about what's eating you. The psychology of nutrition is a very, very huge topic in terms of how it applies to our lives and, once again, our self-perception of ourselves. There's additional supplemental recommendations shared here as well too, such as Vitex, DIM, calcium D glucarate, B vitamins, probiotics, magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids. These are just general recommendations. You should definitely work with your naturopathic practitioner or your holistic nutritionist or your functional medicine doctor, and get a better understanding of how much you should take for your own well-being. And of course, the psycho-spiritual recommendations. So when I consult with people, we talk a lot about, what are the emotions that precede the manifestation of this physical illness? And some people will be like, well, it's kind of woo-woo, right? I don't believe so. I think that for anything to become physically manifest in this world, there has to be emotion that precedes it. And when we don't address the emotion and the underlying maybe resentment or anger or sadness that exists and literally is held within the body, that's where we start to develop symptoms and issues. And it's literally the body letting us know that, hey, emotionally, I'm not doing so well. You need to regulate and figure this out. So I give some recommendations as to probable cause from a psychospiritual recommendation, leaning on Louise Hay in her book, You Can Heal Your Life, and also some affirmations or new thought patterns that you can adopt to just really try and shift your mindset into a different way of thinking. And of course, there are additional resources and recommendations. So these are all great books and just learning more about how to balance your hormones. And this is just, scratching the surface. This is very high level. But in a recap, what we've done is we've gone over the history of birth control very briefly. Please read the article. The rise of estrogen dominance and the causes, gone over the symptoms of estrogen dominance, and also some different dietary, lifestyle, supplementation, and psychospiritual recommendations for how you can reclaim your health. You can find a way forward and not have to live with the effects of hormone imbalance as a female. It's so, so important. And as someone who wants to see more conscious women intentionally have beautiful, healthy babies, it's just, this is the root of it, right? We have to get our cycles balanced so that we can be fertile and then we can grow healthy babies and have hopefully birth tending more towards the natural side just to help baby as well too, and then continue to raise them and take care of them if they're needed. This is the recap of this article. Once again, this is lifeinbloom.com. I have a lot of different books and menu plans to help folks be able to move forward and learn a lot more. So please check out the shop. I love being able to create content and help educate people. So this is one of the ways you can support the work that I'm doing. And then always feel free to contact me if you have questions. And thanks again for tuning in. Have a wonderful day.